very much for coming tonight. You're all really very welcome, even if it does mean you have to stay in on one of our very few sunny days. But I can assure you it's going to be worth it for this exploration of how mindfulness can support curriculum for Wales. Brilliant. I'll give a little bit of an introduction to Mindfulness Wales and then and what we're here to do tonight. And then Faye Rushton from Mindfulness in Schools project is going to talk to us a little bit about what's going on there and some of the help and support and opportunities there are. And then we've got some examples. We've got a recording of a primary example because I know this is not a good time if you've got family. So, you know, we are aware of that, which is why we record, so we can send it out there. But my primary example has got a little boy and it's bedtime. So we've recorded that. But then we've got live Nicola and Kirsty who are going to talk to us about what happens in secondary schools. And then we would love to hear what's going on for you. So chance in the breakout rooms for you to have a chat and so, you know, just to tell us what you think. And we hope this is going to be the start of lots of discussion there. So just to explain then, I'm Liz Williams and I'm Chair of Mindfulness Wales. And I also lead for Mindfulness Wales on education. I've been in education all my life and I'm trained as an adult mindfulness teacher, but I teach all of the children's programmes and I work with Mindfulness in Schools project to teach teachers to teach the children's programmes. And I'm supposed to be retired, but I tell you what, it's one hell of a retirement. It is an absolute privilege to be involved in. So Mindfulness Wales was set up to use mindfulness to help Wales become a more compassionate, kinder, fairer, and more sustainable society. And I think you can all sign up to that. But we've tidied ourselves up a bit. We're getting our act together now. We're working on nurturing mindful communities. And I'm saying that because that is quite important to the work we do in schools, isn't it? Schools can and do work miracles, but you only have children for 15% of their waking hours. I've done the sums and it works. You know, there's a lot of other things as well. And so what is really, really important that we actually work with the whole of communities. That's how we help our children best there. So one of the things we're doing as Mindfulness Wales and nurturing mindful communities is collecting stories. We've started collecting stories in education and elsewhere, and what we're talking about tonight is going to be part of that. But the invitation is that we would really like to have your stories too. So please keep in touch. Please let us know what you're doing so that we can collect the stories, because that's how we inspire people, by real life examples, showing what can be done. So as you get your teeth into this, please keep on sharing your stories there. So I'm going to invite Faye just to introduce herself, and then maybe we'll do a practice. So Faye, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, okay, lovely to be here. Thank you very much to Mindfulness Wales for inviting me along to take part in this session this evening. It is, as I said, a real privilege, and I've had just a lovely time working with Liz on a lot of this work together. And it's just really nice to kind of come together and do some collaborating actually around this. It's one of the things that I think should be at the heart of a lot of mindfulness work, is actually seeing how we can support each other and share our skill set. And I am really excited to hear the stories back as well that I know are going to be coming later on in the session. So as I said, I'm a secondary trained teacher. I'm also a specialist leader of education for wellbeing and inclusion. And I've worked with Mindfulness in Schools since 2015 as a trainer, and then I currently have a role as Education and Training Development Manager since 2021, and part of my responsibility is looking after and developing the Pathways work, which you might have seen some of, and I'm going to talk about some of that as well this evening. I still am active and go into schools and deliver the Mindfulness in Schools project programmes, as well as the present So yeah, really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Faye, and thanks to everybody. So, can I invite you to do a practice? And I thought, what shall we do tonight for the practice? In our Mindfulness Wales sessions, we usually start with a practice, and I thought there's only one choice here. But some of you will know a FOVBOK. This comes in all of the Mindfulness in Schools project programs: feet on floor, bottom on chair. And it can be done in any intensity, lasting any length of time, and you're going to get the grown-up one. So even though this works with 4 and 5-year-olds as well, so we do the grown-up FOVBOK, feet on floor, bottom on chair. So I'm going to invite you to have whatever wriggle feels appropriate for you, just to let your mind and body know that we're going to be doing a practice. I'm always really curious to look around the screen and see what wriggles people do, what all of us having a habit there. And closing your eyes if you're comfortable, but otherwise just lower your gaze. And let your attention drop down to the feet on the floor. And let the feet be really heavy, feeling the contact of the feet with the floor. Maybe even pressing them down a little bit, feeling the firmness, that sense of support. Now, even as we press down, feeling that your feet are actually held there by gravity, that gentle pull, just keeping your feet safely supported on the floor. You might tune into the feet a little bit, and you might feel that sense of the parts of the feet that are in contact with the floor, but maybe you feel your socks, your shoes. Maybe there are even some tingles happening inside the feet. It might be warm or cold. Maybe nothing at all. Just being curious and interested in the sensation of the feet resting, maybe pressing, maybe being gently pulled to the floor. And then inviting you to move that torchlight of attention gently up through the ankles, checking in for any tingles or textures on the way, up through the lower legs. Maybe you might feel the texture of your clothes, maybe an awareness of the sharp shin bone at the front, the softer calf muscle at the back. Maybe there's a tingle or two, maybe it's all very quiet down there. And then coming up to the knees, just get a sense of maybe the clothes stretched across your kneecap, that hard little helmet protecting the delicate bones and tendons behind the kneecap. And then maybe being aware of that really sensitive, perhaps even ticklish part at the back where your clothes might be folded. And then coming up to feel the pressure of the thighs on the seat. Just noticing how the weight just holds you down, and getting a sense of the pressure on your skin. And then all the way up to the bottom on the chair, letting the whole weight of the torso drop down through the body, holding you here in the chair, maybe even that sense of sinking into the seat, as opposed to where we probably normally are, perched on the edge, ready to go, sinking into the seat. And then getting a sense of the whole of the lower part of the body, all the way from the feet on the floor to the bottom on the chair. You've got a sense of all of your attention as best you can, all of your attention being in the bottom of the body, anchoring, steadying, holding you solidly here, grounded on solid ground. Finding a steady place. And then just to finish off the practice, bringing the attention to the breath if that's comfortable for you. Sitting here, conscious of being anchored, the whole of the bottom part of the body, heavy and holding you here. And just letting the breath flow in and out for a few breaths. And then very gently wriggling whatever feels it would like to be wriggled. Maybe it's those toes on the floor, fingers, maybe a bit of a shimmy of the shoulders. Whatever feels right to let your mind and body know that the practice is coming to a close. So here we are. So if anyone hasn't already had contact with any of the Mindfulness in Schools project programs, then that's an introduction. It's in all of them. Feet on floor, bottom on chair, and that's the adult one. So without any more ado, I'm going to hand over to Faye to talk to us a little bit about what Mindfulness in Schools project has been doing to support all of this curriculum work and to put a framework in which will really help us to take this forward. So I'm going to hand over to you, Faye. I'm going to I'll pin you if I can. There we go. Consider yourself pinned. Hopefully, yes, please.
Thanks, Liz. That's an interesting thought. I'm very literal. I immediately go into being actually pinned. Okay, so if I just talk a little bit about what brought us to do this work, we had already been exploring how we might sort of look at the MiSP curricula in relation to PSHE in particular. And then once we'd done that, Liz was talking to me about the fact that it would be brilliant if we did this to support the new curriculum for Wales as well. And so we worked together. It took us about a year, I think, more or less, for this to sort of finally sort of come to fruition. And it finally did last autumn. And so I'm just going to share my screen with you and just take you into a PowerPoint just to give you some of the background to that. So just bear with me a second while I just open that up. Okay. So just checking you can all see mindfulness in the curriculum for Wales there. Lovely, thank you for that. So, and what excites me about this session is we had a session in the autumn where we sort of talked about some of the sort of intentions and the theory, and if you're interested, we've got another recording that you can look at on the Mindfulness in Schools website. That is that recording that we did back in November, and it goes into more detail on the sort of like the way in which it supports the curriculum for Wales. But what excites me about this session is that we are going to also be looking at the stories both in primary and also in secondary of where people have really kind of brought this to life, where mindfulness really underpins what's happening in the curriculum for Wales, and also tell you a little bit about the pathways work as well, so you can see where schools are kind of moving as they develop a sustainable model in their settings. So if you've not come across Mindfulness in Schools project before, just to say that we're a UK-based charity. We set up in 2009. Our kind of most kind of like the initial work that was done by Mindfulness in Schools was looking at how we could bring mindfulness curricula to students initially, and then since then also been exploring how we might support staff as well in terms of learning mindfulness for their own well-being, but also to then help them in their development as mindfulness teachers as well, with offering that to students too. So the kind of focus here for the charity is to bring mindfulness to young people and also for those who care for them. And all the research points to the fact that the well-being of teachers impacts the well-being of students and vice versa. So it's really important that we're kind of like thinking about what we offer for both. So you'll see, and I'll take you through a little tour of where all the resources are for the mapping later, that there is a main guidance document which is called the Introduction, and within the document it's kind of the key document because it explains how to use the other documents and also what the intentions are for this work. And really it's about highlighting those opportunities where we can link the area for health and wellbeing, teaching and learning in schools with mindfulness, but also vice versa. How does mindfulness support that area? One of the things that I'm very excited about in terms of one of the examples that's going to be shared this evening is that someone is also exploring how it supports the other areas as well. And I think that's kind of maybe a next step thing to begin to look at that too. So I'm sure those of you that understand and know about the curriculum for Wales should be very aware of the 4 purposes that are part of that curriculum: ambitious, capable learners, enterprising, creative contributors, ethical, informed citizens of Wales and the world, and healthy, confident individuals. What I really like about that is just the kind of elements of sort of like a quality or attitude that comes along with those 4 purposes. And one of the things, or a number of the things that we kind of identified that we felt, you know, is where mindfulness could support those 4 purposes was within learning behaviours in particular. So how we help children and young people access their learning. And of course, mindfulness can be helpful in supporting development of concentration, the ability to direct attention, focus, communication skills, and very importantly, self-regulation as well. I just thought I'll let you have a little read of this quote here, but this has been taken from the health and wellbeing area of learning and experience kind of area document on the website from the hub. And the thing that really strikes me, just because I still feel like this is something that we bang our heads against a brick wall with in England, which is where I'm based, is that very last sentence. It recognises that good health and well-being are important to enable successful learning. And I just think that's absolutely key and totally true. And I just wish it was more widely recognised. So I'm kind of in you know, admiration that that's been explicitly named there. So how can mindfulness support then? So through helping children and young people develop and apply knowledge and skills. And this for me is what makes mindfulness different to other things that are deemed to be social and emotional learning, is this application of the knowledge and skills. So this ability to kind of live, I suppose, the practice. So just having a sense that it's actually a way of being or an approach to the way that they live their lives makes it something very different. And it's named by Catherine Weir in a later quote that I'm going to show you. It's fundamentally a practice, so experiential, and invites us to model what we learn in various in-school and out-of-school situations. So this is why it's so helpful that there are adults around children who have a practice and are actually modelling this for them and coming alongside them as they learn mindfulness for themselves. Things to consider are that the maps that have been created are not just a checklist of content. The relationship is more nuanced, so it's not just saying, well, if you deliver lesson 3 of pause B, tick, 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 you've covered all of these things. It's actually exploring kind of more how they complement each other and how they could work together. So just to name that really. But there is possibility for them to kind of both the content of mindfulness lessons to support learning in the health and wellbeing area, but also vice versa. Some of the content, the topics that are there under that header can be used as examples within any mindfulness learning as well. And one of the most important things, I think, is to not see this as something that's isolated or out on its own in any way, sort of mindfulness teaching just as a kind of curriculum subject, but also thinking about how mindfulness might support all time in school. So that's one of the things that particularly interests me, is how it can be woven through whole school policy for wellbeing, other initiatives in school, and I'll explain a little bit more in a bit. But also embedding mindfulness in school life can make a significant contribution to educational environment that enables and encourages children to flourish. One of the things that we know from some recent research is that staff learning mindfulness has a really positive impact on whole school culture. So that in itself, as a secondary effect, impacts children and young people's well-being as well. I'm guessing you may have seen this document from Education Wales, Framework of Embedding a Whole School Approach to Emotional and Mental Wellbeing. And we would recommend that any of the work that's done in this area is also seen in the context of a positive whole school approach to wellbeing. Just to continue with this idea that wellbeing is not something that's out on its own. And I really feel actually that the way that this area has been written and with the what matters statements, that you can actually see that it's not out on its own and where the cross-curricular links can come from. And the framework that's mentioned here gives really good guidance. I think it's a fantastic guidance document to just explore and have a look at in terms of anyone who's interested in taking this out to whole school. And also, one of the things that I think that mindfulness can really help with is actually helping sort of other social emotional learning programs be accessed. One of my experiences that I've had, I was part of a group of schools that were in the Healthy Minds project. And we had some really strong learning actually in that project, because we were taught how to deliver a programme called the Pen Resiliency Project. And then we delivered Breathe afterwards, the mindfulness training. And the Pen Resiliency programme was all about awareness of thinking and resilient thinking. And I realised as we kind of moved into it, because I was already experienced at delivering .B, that we should probably have delivered the mindfulness element of that programme first, before the Pen Resiliency programme, because the children and young people were struggling to notice their thoughts. And I was thinking, oh, actually, so there's something here about kind of learning mindfulness first that then helps you work with metacognition, work with, you know, recognising thinking styles, etc. So I think it can really complement other SEL programmes and actually help with accessing that, as well as other aspects of school life. And this is the quote that I was going to refer to before, and it's come from Implementing Mindfulness in Schools, an evidence-based guide that Catherine Weir and Adrian Bethune put together in 2021. Through its present moment embodied skills-based approach, mindfulness can help ensure that the aims of SEL are realised in practice and action, not just expressed as theories, words and future intention. So there's just this really lovely kind of emphasis of the fact that it's not just about having a cognitive understanding of things that will help us, but also having the practical experience of applying it in daily life and seeing the difference that it makes. Just to mention, I don't think I have actually, but you might be able to see it in the top left-hand corner, that's a document from the Mindfulness Initiative, and it's worth kind of going and having a look at that and reading it in more depth. It's a weighty document. So one of the things that we've been doing at Mindfulness in Schools project is just thinking about how we can support schools, educational and youth-based settings in developing a sustainable approach. And so we've come up with the Pathways model. And just to say that that little QR code in the bottom right hand corner there might take you there, but if it doesn't, there's another code coming up that you can kind of point your camera at, and it should help you. So I'm going to just take you through what's involved at each step. So just to say that the reason kind of we have broken this down and made it easier is not to kind of put together anything that's a one size fits all model. Actually, we really recognise that every school, every educational setting has its own kind of microclimate, and it's really important to work with schools' existing policies, ethos, etc., and to honour the difference and the unique nature of different school climates. But all we're offering here is just some possibilities for the ways in which schools can develop, but also really encourage and welcome schools making it their own as well. So step 2, then, you can see that this is called exploring the options, and it's just an opportunity really for staff, educators to begin to find out a little bit more about mindfulness and how it might work in schools. On the top line there, we've got a free starter resources pack that people can ask for, and it will be delivered. We have a free information webinar that's delivered live, but also we have a recording of it as well on the website. Sample lessons for people to kind of download and have a little play themselves with students and see what they think. And if you have local .B Foundations teachers in your area, and we've got a map on the website where you can find your local .B Foundations teacher, they can deliver an in-person taster session in your setting. And we'd really encourage that, actually, because we think that in-person support is really, really valuable in terms of developing a sustainable model. And Breathe is a transitions programme. It's a wellbeing programme mostly, but is mindfulness based. And then in terms of how we support that step, it's through the school sit together, which is where people can come bring their students. They don't need to have done any of our training to do that, but just bring their students along, come and join in with a little sit. This being designed for that age range, i.e. young. We tend to kind of like not keep it particularly long for that reason. And then we also have a Breathe group mentoring session that supports Breathe. So that's step 1. Step 2 is an 8-week mindfulness course for adults. Could be Begin, which is our online version, but could also be .B Foundations, which is an in-person version of Begin, or any other alternative recognised 8-week course. And then you can see we've got ongoing support for step 1, hub practice group sessions to try and support people with their developing practice, 1-day mindfulness retreat for the same reason, to help deepen that practice, and then skills workshops. And the skills workshops that come at step 2 are all about how we use practice to support us in our work, and also in the way that we have relationships in educational settings and how we communicate as well. So step 3 is training to teach the student curricula, DOTS, PAWS-B or .B, and you can see the age ranges there, or inviting an externally MiSP trained teacher to deliver the curricula. And again, we've got ongoing support there, group mentoring sessions for those 3 student curricula, and skills workshops. And the 4 that kind of sit on this step are adapting the curricula, because we think it's really important. Just as we were saying there about one size not fitting all, is the idea that actually we do need to be responsive to the students we have in front of us. And so adaptation is really key, so we can make it relevant for them. We also have a workshop on trauma-informed practice, a workshop that's designed for external teachers and teaching assistants who aren't kind of the main class teacher, and then a workshop on how to weave mindfulness through the school day in other areas, sort of curriculum areas, or maybe through transitions in the day as well. Step 4 is the school mindfulness lead option. And we have an in-house school mindfulness lead where someone who has delivered PAWS-B or .B twice, or has delivered the entire DOTS programme can apply to become a school mindfulness lead for their setting, where they're trained to deliver .B foundations, which is that curriculum that I've talked about before, which is an 8-week course designed to be delivered in person. Alternatively, an external MiSP-trained .B Foundations teacher can also provide the support as a school mindfulness lead, where they're delivering to staff and also to students. But it needs to be that if this is the case, that there is commitment from the school for this to be an ongoing thing, as opposed to it just being a kind of one-off thing. And then we have ongoing support for steps 1 to 3, both for personal and teaching practice. And then the skills workshops for teaching adults, we have a group process, a workshop on inquiry, and then also a workshop that explores what does it mean to be a school mindfulness lead. So taking that further than just delivering the .B Foundations programme to staff, but then exploring how it might be taken more widely out into school in terms of policies, processes, etc. that happen in school. And finally, step 5. I say finally because actually we've got loads of ideas for other steps, but this is it so far. And just to say that we have got resources on the website for the first 2 steps, and there are other steps on their way. So step 3 should be coming in the next few months, and there are extra resources there. But this is looking at a whole school approach. One of the things that we have encouraged at each step, so if you go and look at this in a bit more detail, you'll see that there's the encouragement to keep a portfolio. And there you keep a record of all of the work that you've been doing in your setting and all of the training that you've done and the support sessions, etc. And then you can use that at this point, if you are a school mindfulness lead, to apply for the school to become a MiSP Beacon school or setting, so a centre for good practice. And from this point, begin to explore how you can work with other schools and looking at how mindfulness supports whole school culture, and also looking at kind of more wider community support as well using mindfulness. So steps 1 to 4, you've got the personal and teaching practice support there. And then there's a potential for possible train-the-trainer options to come out of step 5 if we've got beacon schools where there are well-trained, well-experienced school mindfulness leads to potentially begin offering out training into their local community as well. So that's the whole pathways. And if you point your camera at that QR code, it will actually take you directly to much more detailed information on the pathways work so that you can see that. And I'd really recommend actually just having a look at the portfolio, because it gives lots of ideas for things that you can be doing at each step as well as if you are a hub member, just having a look in at kind of the pathways, you'll see the logo, and if you click on the steps, more information comes up and resources. Okay, so just going to show you where the resources sit in the website. This is kind of our home page, and if you click on the training and support sort of area at the top of that page, you'll see that there's a mapping the curricula link, and it takes you to a page where there's an option to go to either the PSHE mapping or to the mapping to Curriculum for Wales. And then on the Curriculum for Wales page, all of those drop-down menus are actually titles and headers from the guidance document. So it's all there to have a quick look at if you want to. But all of that information is in the introduction PDF there on the left. And then you can see that there's a map for each of the curricula as well. So this is the front page for Pawsby. And there's a really lovely introduction here that was written by lovely Liz. And kind of points out actually one of the things I must say thank you for and to is that the Central South Consortium Joint Education Service allowed us to use a document that had the strands detailed, the what matters statements, and also progression step statements, and that was incredibly helpful, and that's what we've used in the mapping. It talks about the intentions for the programme, but also you can see at the bottom there's some what matters statements, strands and progression steps named that underpin the whole of the MiSP mindfulness curricula. So we haven't repeated those on each lesson, but those are there evident within each lesson. So this is kind of what a map looks like. You've got the core mechanisms, that's taken from that document that is from the Mindfulness Initiative. And then you have the detail of the lessons in terms of the content with practices and activities. And then I'm going to hop over to the last column, which details the what matters statements, the strands, the progression steps. And then in the middle there, where it says notes and opportunities, is a little bit of an explanation of where we think the links are and what the possibilities are content-wise for how you kind of get those working together, including opportunities for developing the learning a little bit more. So for example, in lesson 2, where there's making choices, and it links to what matters statements around physical health and well-being. Then there's chance for discussions there about healthy eating potentially, activities, exercise, sleep, how we take care of ourselves. So there's just opportunity to kind of extend the learning. And this is the grid that was shared with us by the Central South Consortium, and we use that at the back of the document, so you've got that to have a little look at as well. Okay, so I shall stop the share there and I shall pass back to Liz.
There we go, and I will remove pin, remove spotlight. I think you're back amongst us now, Faye. Thank you very much for that there. And what I will do in the next couple of days is send you the link to the recording of this whole session, and I'll include some of the links that we've talked about there, so that you don't have to make a note of them, that they'll be all in the email so you can follow them up. So that will be coming out to you in the next couple of days. I just need time to get it all processed. So let's illustrate that now. How does all of that look in practice? And this is where we're coming back to the stories and our desire to collect the stories. And I'm going to play you, technology permitting, the recording that I did on Monday to collect the story from Garnteg Primary School, which is a local primary school to me and where I've been working since 2017. And I've nearly done myself out of a job, not quite. They still haven't got anyone to teach other staff, so I still need to go in and teach new staff the 8-week course. And I don't mind this at all, they haven't yet got anyone to teach dots. So I have to go into year 1 and teach dots. Oh, it's so sad. So I take my puppets in every week and have great fun with year 1 fun. Yeah, a Freudian slip that. with year 1. And by next year they will have their own teacher of dots, and I will be out of a job on that one, but I'm enjoying it while it lasts. So if I share my screen and see if we can get this to work. This is Zahara Ali Parrott, who is the assistant head, and she will explain how she got into this and tell us about what they've been doing at Garnteg. And it's been a journey, not an event. It's been a while, but she'll explain it to you. So can I just check you've got that on screen? Yep, and there we go.
Oh, thank you so much, Zahara, for talking to us about mindfulness in Garnteg Primary. And I was really taken by the description you gave me of how you noticed when you were going on the learning walk, how you noticed that mindfulness really was embedded throughout the school. What did you notice? How did that happen?
Yeah, so each term at Garnteg we have governors come in for a learning walk with our pupil health and wellbeing team, as well as our staff health and wellbeing team. So we're able to do a full walk of the school into classes, see the provision, and also speak to the learners and have a look at some books as well, and just get a full sense as to our health and wellbeing AOLE across the school. So during that learning walk, it was I think just really heartwarming to see how the mindfulness approach has been filtered through all areas of curriculum and school life. And some examples of that are each class have a wellbeing area within the class where children can access through any session, and also they're able to access resources, maybe set their sensory resources, age and stage appropriate, but also within those areas there were mindful strategies appropriate to the age group of the children that had actually been created by the children. There were some books that had been created as well. And the children were so enthusiastic in talking about them, how they, the times that they access the areas, the strategies that they use, that it's really, the mindfulness approach has really become a tool in the individual's toolboxes for them to be able to self-regulate and support that readiness for learning and attitudes for learning as well. But also it was great to see some more formal approaches being used in classes. We witnessed classes, in year 3 and year 6, where the children were actually completing mindfulness exercises as a whole class. They were using the tools, again, that they're from the curriculum elements of Pause B, but also of the other programmes that we have running at Garnteg. And just really, we were able to see and hear the way the children were interacting with each other, and also the calmness of the classrooms as well, which, it really was key. And seeing the mindfulness approach coming through displays, coming through the children themselves, the staff, the environment, and ensuring that the children have got, the staff and the children have got those tools to be able to draw upon.
And it's so important for all the staff as well. How have you got all the staff involved in knowing what's going on and being part of this?
So, it was great because back, mindfulness for me started as a personal journey. I suppose I was looking for something that I could use for my own personal needs, finding that I was having difficulty sleeping and switching off. So I was actually offered to attend Mindfulness, the 8-week course myself, for personal use. And from then I spoke to our head teacher and could really see how it could benefit our whole staff at Garnteg. So back in 2017 in September, we actually delivered whole staff professional learning for the 8-week mindfulness in Wales training. And the feedback from staff, their evaluations were saying how mindfulness has really supported them in having more focus, really being able to work on their sleep as well, and concentrating on what's important, taking every moment, being present in the moment and having a sense of grounding as well. So I think training the staff on the outset so that they have the mindfulness approach within their own toolbox that they're able to use, they're able to hone and use strategies for their personal life, and then thinking about how to develop within school and to support the curriculum and learners with their well-being as well. So really the outset was staff, think about staff well-being and then moving forwards to how we can develop in terms of pupil well-being.
And then you've carried that on with when you've had new staff as well?
Yeah, so we had top-up training for any new staff that attended the school over several years. So we've offered new staff training, and also we had nurture group run for pupils. So again, staff were able to continue using their strategies and developing in that way and explore really. It was mindfulness, the approach has always been part of our school development plan back from 2017-18 and year on year. So the health and wellbeing approach is fed into our strategic policy, where all stakeholders have been involved. They've shared their feelings as to how health and wellbeing should develop in the school for staff, pupils and the community. And I think that starting point in ensuring that there's that voice and the feeding into the strategy, but then also policies, as well as school development over the years, has really helped to embed for staff and pupils, and now our wider community as well.
So strategic vision in the school development plan is an important aspect every year.
Yes,
Since the start.
Definitely,
Yeah.
and not just in a superficial way. With a mention, we use our Happen survey to measure our pupils' feelings, our parent surveys as well. So we're always working on developing the area of health and wellbeing, using mindfulness as a key part of that. We've developed our spiral curriculum at Garnteg. So we started off with myself and another member of staff training, and we trained for Pause B, where we focused I suppose that programme on our year 5 and 6 pupils at upper key stage 2 to support transition primarily. Then I was lucky enough in 2018 to attend the Present training, which was a different approach again. I suppose not so much in formalised sessions, but really thinking about how the mindfulness approach could be used across all areas of the school day, whether it's when the children are lining up, asking them what they notice, what they hear, and really using those the skills of our senses and our bodies, and how we react, and how we can use those across the whole school day, as well as in curriculum, as well as our more formal approach to mindfulness as Pause B gave us, but thinking about the I suppose opportunities throughout the day. And then we also used kindness curriculum at the lower end of the school for nursery, reception and year 1. So we started to build then our programme of study for mindfulness within the school, which we continue to do upon this day. Our school development plan under for wellbeing and care support and guidance, target 3, is still in there for embedding the strategies, embedding the programmes through the school, and also targeting specific groups of learners to ensure that we've got, I suppose, all bases covered. And then we're really looking forward to, we're at the point of developing our whole school strategy for health and wellbeing, where we'd really like to think about the sustainability of staff professional development in delivering mindfulness programmes without the use of external sources, even though they are fabulous.
Talking of which,
Yes.
of course, I'm loving doing dots with year 1. But that's an introduction, isn't it? That sustainability is so important. Much as I love coming in to do dots with them, to know if it can be done.
Yeah, and the children.
Teacher, that will be more sustainable.
Exactly, and provide that more flexible approach as well. So, as a class teacher, we're really lucky in primary schools to have one class teacher to facilitate, the learners all day long. So it would provide that flexibility of approach as well, and like you said, that sustainability. So we hope next year to be able to have a staff member, if not more, attend that training would be great.
Yeah, sustainability in the long term, that's what it's out there. Coming down another level again, what about this classroom planning, how the different year groups incorporate mindfulness into their topics and how they use it on a day-to-day basis? Yeah,
I think now we're at the point where the staff really see the relevance of mindfulness, how it fits into our health and wellbeing AOLE as well, and I think our staff are at the point of having the confidence to be able to knit the approaches into curriculum areas that become more projects that are in-depth but also cross-curricular. So at Garnteg we have our Climb Spark curriculum that's bespoke to the school. The key drivers are pupil voice, authentic learning, our 4 purposes as well. So we've in the autumn term there were some lovely projects going on in the classes where the drivers in terms of 4 purposes were healthy, confident individuals and ethical, informed citizens. And for example, our year 6 class, they were able to build the mindful approach of Pause B into the teaching and learning curriculum so that some of the pupil voice ideas were they wanted to cook recipes from around the world and use their mindfulness strategies and approach in terms of cooking, but also applying it to their expressive arts learning of drawing and thinking about their fine art skills and how they need to develop their concentration to be able to achieve the best that they can be. They were also built in, they wanted to focus on the mind and body and, into their science experiments and how the organs affect our mind and how, our physicality, but also our mental health as well. So it's just really great to see mindfulness feeding into all of the AOLEs, the 6 AOLEs, and also the pupil voice coming through. As well as as part of the wider skills, but as well as literacy, numeracy and digital skills. One of our Year 4 classes, they were focusing on healthy minds and healthy body, looking at the religion of Buddhism as well. But one of the they actually created a little newsletter which was called Go Mindful, and it was great to see how they'd incorporated their mindful colourings, crosswords, every aspect of their learnings that they'd completed was all part of their curriculum topic, and some wonderful examples in books as well, which we don't expect. But it's great to see how we're now at the point of the approach being fed through all AOLEs and in terms of that real impact for the pupils.
Oh, thank you, Zahara. And we've got some examples of that planning. We can send out with the papers afterwards, just for you to have a quick look at how people incorporate it into topics there. But I know from walking around on my way to the classrooms while I'm teaching, just how much I notice as well around the school, how the atmosphere is informed. So well done to Garnteg for that. Really, really grateful for all the work that you've done, and some lucky children.
Oh, well, thank you, Liz. I think, without your, you've been such a supportive role, as well as, the other professionals we've met along the way. It's, I think the one thing that our staff always do draw back upon is the use of research, which, has been, you can clearly see the surveys that we conduct at school, but also the national research Bangor University, the research behind all of the mindful programmes has, their key drivers for, us developing the approach within the school and continuing to include it as part of our school development plan and our strategic planning as well, because it really does have an impact for the health and wellbeing of pupil, staff and our wider community as well.
Oh, thank you, and looking forward to hearing how it goes in the future as well. Thank you.
There we go. If I stop the share there, and my thanks to Zahara and all of the staff at Garnteg for all of that. So that's the primary story, and I'll send you some of the things that I took copies of while I was at the school there. That they can be attached to the email, which is why it might take me a couple of days to get it out to you. But how about secondary? A bit more complicated. But we've got a couple of people here well up to the challenge. So I'm going to pin Nicola Lewis-Paddison, and where's Kirsty? I've lost Kirsty now. We'll find Kirsty. Oh, there we go. I've gone past you, Kirsty. I haven't missed you out. There we go. I'm going to pin you as well. So you... There we go. So Kirsty Brown and Nicola Lewis-Paddison from Llangatwg Community School, and going to talk to us a little bit about how it works at secondary there. So how has DOT-B, you've been doing the secondary programme, how has DOT-B made a difference to you and the pupils?
Shall I go first, Kirst? You're on mute, so you need to unmute. So I don't know if anyone haven't seen the video with the Q&A with Liz and I, obviously we're going to put that in at the end, or when Liz sends the email out. But I've been drip feeding it for years, starting off with drip feeding in my PE lessons, and then eventually, finally it's on the curriculum for health and wellbeing. I renamed a lesson we've kind of, remodeled it. Rather than called it PSE, we've just called it .B, just very original. And because the kids didn't know what .B was, so we get them engaged. So that was the first year. The second year now, this time, is health and well-being. And we don't have to fight for the hour. The kids have a week. It's kind of a standard in our school, and obviously with the curriculum for Wales obviously lends itself to that. But generally, sorry, I've gone right around. Our kids seem to be just a lot nicer. It's kind of hard to to monitor on paper, but as a member of staff, you know, you can see the kids are generally nicer. Kids will be kids, but they are a little bit nicer. Kirst, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but I think that's it.
Yeah, I'd say they are much nicer. They're more aware of how words and things can affect other people, and how it can affect yourself. So it just makes everyone more aware of who they are and where they are in the school. I mean, we were going to talk about different things, but Nick and myself, we got into mindfulness. I found mindfulness a very important time in my life. I found it incredibly helpful to me. So when the Myriad project came on board, which was my resilience in adolescence, we could become .B teachers. Me and Nick jumped on the chance to do it. We did a year where we did it as part of the Myriad project, but when that finished, Nick and myself were like, we can't let this go, we've got to keep it in school. So like Nick said, she started off by sneaking it into her PE lessons, introducing wellbeing walks to our year group. And then once we could see how successful and how much of an impact it was having on pupils, we kind of said, we can't let this go. We've got to take it further. So that's when Nick managed to get it onto the actual curriculum and part of their timetable as a set aside lesson. I mean, primary school, you're with the same children all day. There's more time for you to squeeze other things in. But when you're in a secondary school and you've got a set timetable, it's harder to get these extra more whole holistic approaches in the timetable. So it was really a massive achievement for us to get that on the timetable and to see how much it's affected the children. And now we're carrying it on now. So next year again, now there's going to be health and wellbeing on the timetable again.
But you talked about learning walks, but yours is a different learning walk to what we talked about in primary. Your learning walks are with your mindful walks are with the children, aren't they? So can you tell us a little bit about what?
So every children have assemblies, and that's normal. But we thought instead of having assemblies every day, on a Friday we have a wellbeing walk. So on a Friday, our whole year group, so 160 children, 6 form teachers, we are all on the yard together, and we're walking together and taking in the well-being and the mindfulness aspect of walking. So feeling our feet on the floor and being together holistically as a group. And it has a real impact on the day then. And our Friday is nice because that sets you in that space for the whole weekend then, rather than it being in a different time of the week. So we found Friday was really helpful for that. And we always finish with a mindfulness quote, something inspirational to motivate them then to have a lovely weekend. So it's a really nice thing for the whole year group to do together.
Yeah, lots of chance for you to get feedback from the children as well.
Yeah.
You've got
And as we've said, like it doesn't happen overnight. So the teachers that are on this session will be watching it recording. You know, we've been years kind of starting and drip feeding it through. You know, going from year 7s was chaos with the kids running around the yard thinking it was playtime and they could do what they liked. But eventually we kind of trained them. And then, you know, every year group up until year 11. And as I've said in my Q&A before, that some of them were just asking, why aren't we doing it this week? You know, some of them were pleased we weren't, I'm not going to lie, but some of them, you know, quite a few of them, why aren't we doing our mindfulness walk this morning? And also, as well, the teachers were nagging us if there was any reason, should there be exams on, or, you know, if it was chucking it down with rain and we didn't have the space, we wouldn't drag them out. But it also bringing the teachers together and being a bit more mindful and getting to know the kids that way as well. So, yeah.
And you've got some other, you got your regulation station. Sorry, I got the word wrong there. Regulation station.
Yeah, so my classroom, I help to run NVIS in our school, which is our pupil support centre. So my classroom is sort of a well-being area. where I run lots of little interventions, but I've set up a regulation station within my classroom. So there's a corner of my classroom set up with lots of mindfulness techniques that are on the wall as prompts to the skills they've already learned in the .B lessons. But when children come to me in crisis, we have like timeout cards, for example. If someone's feeling overwhelmed, they can have a timeout card and then come and see me. So they go to the regulation station and then use those skills that they've learned in the .B lessons to help regulate themselves, to make themselves ready to learn, because your well-being, if you haven't got good well-being, you can't learn. So that they can self-regulate or co-regulate with me, and then they can go back to lessons then when they're ready to learn. So that's a really nice area in our school where children can come and use mindfulness to help them to be in the right space to learn.
Oh, thank you. And you've also involved some other members of staff, not necessarily the ones we might expect. You've brought some of those in, I remember you saying, with the
Yeah.
Yeah, with our walks that we've been doing, we've got a variety of form teachers. So Kirsty will elaborate a bit more, but from different areas, and we're hoping to kind of integrate and drip feed it, so they take it back to their own departments and kind of highlight how well it's working.
And you've been doing practices with the canteen staff, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been going in, trying to get once a week with the canteen staff, and then we're looking towards working with the governors as well, which Kirsty's on, which we haven't spoke about yet, Kirst, but yeah, we'll be working with the governors as well in the school.
So there's something about just getting the feelers out, getting different groups of people where you've got open doors, as well as offering that to the pupils as part of the curriculum there. Now, Zahara said something about sustainability and making it sustainable in the long run, and you've come across that now, this sustainability with Nicola not being in the school anymore, and being able to move on. How have you managed? What are your plans for just keeping it going so it doesn't rely on one person?
Yeah, oh, sorry, Kirst. I was a bit concerned. I knew how sort of passionate Kirsty was, and us as mindfulness teachers, you've got to be really passionate and feel it to deliver it well, I believe. And when I stepped away, I knew that Kirsty would continue it. My next step was going to be a mindfulness lead in the school, and that's what we're hoping, possibly the avenues to open, whether Kirsty would, or whether there's an opportunity for myself to kind of work on the mindfulness lead and teach teachers in other areas to really spread the word, and having had the experience to show how powerful it is. But Kirsty's doing a superb job, and we were talking earlier, there's so many teachers that we want to develop in the school, isn't it, Kirst?
Yeah, there's lots of staff that will be really interested in taking it forward. I've also made links with a local charity called Building Blocks, and they come into school to deliver mindfulness workshops as well to keep that momentum going. So we've got their support as well as our school support as well. So we're trying to spread it out further into the community as well.
So lots and lots going on there, and just really just that feeling that you've got about the children there. Now, we have got some video evidence of some of the pupils, which we will put onto the email. We've got the recording Nicola was talking about, where we did a recording and added on there some of the video material we've got of the children actually talking about how it benefits them, and we can let you have that. We unfortunately haven't got time to play it today, but we can let you have that. So thank you both for the secondary story, which again we're writing up, and so we're really, really grateful for the work that you've done, and for the pupils as well for contributing. So thank you both very much.
The question I just wanted to ask quickly is, it was really lovely to see that the present has been incorporated into MiSP programs now, but I just wanted to ask, well, because it wasn't on that sheet, so I just wondered how that's working. And it must be great relief to you, Faye, so you don't have to split yourself in half now, but can you just talk through why MiSP have taken on those programs and how do they complement?
Yeah, thank you, I am totally relieved that the present is now going to be working, with Mindfulness in Schools project, and you're probably aware that I've been a member of the training team for the present since 2017. So I've been really kind of like, it's been a really big part of my work as well. And the way that we saw it just through discussions was that we wanted to create a more collaborative approach between the two organisations. And Sarah Silverton, who designed the programme with Tabitha Sawyer and Dasana Dorji, had always, right from the beginning, had in mind that the Present for Schools would complement Pawsby in particular, which at the time that they developed the Present for Schools, there was no curriculum that MiSP had for early years. Talking about it, it was really lovely to hear actually Zahara talk about the fact that they were using both programmes, and that the Present for Schools was kind of offering other options and ways of extending the learning and helping with the embedding phase in their setting. So that's what we're hopefully going to be. We're going to have a speaker event just to share that. We've only just set the date for it for the 8th of July, where Sarah's going to be talking about this with us. So please, look out for that, and we'll be able to share a lot more information then about that. Thank you for asking that.
Brilliant, thank you. But as you say, they complement each other really well, so that's great.
Thanks both. Any other thoughts, questions, impressions? Anything that came up in your groups? Any feedback from your discussions? I think it looks as if it's too late at night for anyone to be inspired. I will give you another chance just having a look around, just in case anyone's got any thoughts they want to put in. And I see Camille, you put the link in there, but I'll put that in the email.
Thank you. I suppose I just wanted to mention something, Liz, if I may, if I'm not taking up anyone else's space. Just about the funding constraints. I mean, I had a meeting with a friend of mine who's ahead the other day, and he's got so much on the budget, the actual cost of just lights and gas and electricity for the school, and the local authority are giving him less than that. So then they're looking at cutting staff costs and stuff like that, and it's just so tough, isn't it, at the moment for schools really, and for heads juggling all this when they can see there's a need, and yet you've got to keep the school running.
It is a real challenge, just when the need is so great. And all of you, Nicola, Kirsty and Zahara, talked about the personal benefit. And it was one of the major findings from Myriad was how much difference it made to the learning environment and the the way that staff were and felt and were with the children, to have staff training. And so it is a challenge. We're in challenging times. So Roy, you can't see you now, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just on the point of funding, I mean, the Wellbeing and Future Generations Act, which of course, as I explained to Kalgita, the reason I'm here is, having tried personal behaviour change is extremely difficult. And if you take that into organisations and communities, and probably the starting point is schools and teaching people mindfulness, and so the fact of the difficulty of funding and mindfulness in schools and funding mindfulness in schools, it actually supports the Wellbeing Future Generations Act, really. So I don't know, does the commissioner have any money? Probably not. Just throw that in.
And Faye, there are some supported places available on MiSP courses for high free school meals, but the major support from the external charity has come to an end, hasn't it? So,
yeah, we were lucky enough to have funding from CHK, and it meant that we could provide really, really, really discounted places for staff to do training, and that's just come to an end at the end of March. But we do have other funding for supported places. So anyone who is interested, it's worth just having a look or asking. We have our support email address. In fact, I'll pop it into the chat, is support@mindfulnessinschools.org. It's well worth just asking and inquiring, and we can see what we can do. And the other thing that we're trying to do now is get an equivalent to CHK so that we can do another round of funding for people to discount places for training as well, because yeah, it's absolutely key and it is dire out there. We know that. So yeah, thank you.
Rowena, I've just picked up your query there about whether schools are mostly delivering mindfulness in-house or getting freelancers in, or do they come like to organisations? And I would say before COVID, I would be, or all of us who are .B Foundations trained would quite regularly go in and do whole staff sessions. But there's a big issue in terms of time. In terms of allowing staff time for the whole staff to be involved in an 8-week course there. And of course, that means you have to pay for all of them at once, even though it is actually cost effective on a per person basis. So I think very probably, I think it's more likely that people are sending staff in smaller numbers, probably on courses like .begin, and doing it more, you know, online in smaller numbers, because that evens out the cost a little bit more. And that's a shame, because we know that Garnteg did several rounds of whole staff, a whole group training, so that all the staff were trained, and they all had the same experience. So, you know, those were good times there. But it's still a bit of a mixture. But the cost constraints affect everybody. I don't know if there's some whole school stuff going on. I think somewhere where they've got external funding, like the Warrington projects. But
yeah, I mean, Northern Ireland has some funding that comes through some of their charity organisations, and they send people, but they tend to be freelancers actually, who are kind of part of that work. It is a real mixture of the two in terms of people being trained in-house and actually freelancers offering it. And it's one of the reasons actually why I built freelancers into the pathways work, because for quite a long time it was just very focused on teachers in-house, but in terms of the reality of what's happening out there, it's a real mixture. And I kind of wanted it to be that there were many routes to bringing mindfulness into school, and actually just as valid and valuable to have really supportive external teachers working with schools to kind of begin to create a culture and create culture change in school.
to clarify that, I am conscious of the time there, but Owen's talked about buying in freelance teachers to teach the children, and that does still happen quite extensively. Yeah, I was talking about training the staff there, but I still go into schools where they haven't got anyone trained to teach Pawsby, .B and DOTS to children. I know Faye does as well, and lots of us actually are still going in to teach children in schools where they haven't got anyone trained, because of course they've got to get someone to do the 8-week course first, and then to go on to do the training to teach the children. So it takes a little while before they are up and running to be able to do it in-house. So we are still actually, as freelancers, picking up work that way.
And staff, you know, senior leaders often want to see what impact it has first. They sort of like want to try before they buy to some extent. They want to see what impact it has with the children before they then commit to these things. So I think there's always probably going to be a role for freelance mindfulness teachers doing this work to begin with. Like you said, Liz, about doing yourself out of a job at Garnteg. You know, that's well, we all start this work knowing that we're probably going to do ourselves out of a job. Hopefully, because that's where we'd like schools to be, you know, to become self-sustaining.
Schools in Wales will only bring in teacher training in .B to deliver. No, all of the programmes. Yeah. Rowena, do you want to? I'll have your email address. Should we get in contact Yeah, let's have a conversation about this. I'm just really conscious of time there, and we can tease out some of the things if we have a separate conversation. So my commitment to all of you is I will send you an email with lots of stuff in it for you to have a look at, the stories that we're collecting, and some of the background, some of the links that we've put up there. I'll put all of that in the email so that you've got a resource there to take forward. But there will be email addresses on that. Faye's put the support at mindfulnessinschools.org on there as well. There, just come back and ask us. You know, it feels more like a big family, and that, you know, that we can do this together. We can work together. We can support each other, and do it together. And the other request is, please keep telling us the stories, because that's how we inspire others to say, do you know what, this does work. This really does have an impact. That's how we get the message across. So there will be lots of material which you can feel free to share. If you can get it out to other people, then please do. So can I just say thank you to all of you. Thank you to Faye, to Zahara in her absence, to Nicola and Kirsty in their presence, and to all of you for taking the interest in this tonight there. And this recording will be a resource then that we can all share, and we'll share it on social media. We'll put it on our website. And please follow us on the website if you're not on the mailing list already. I'll put the links to that in the email as well, so that you get kept up to date with anything else that we do. And we'll come back with more stories at future dates. So thank you all for being here this evening and for the support, and good luck in all that you do. Keep us posted.